In this example, we're going to replace the label on the bottle. Notice how the bottle rotates. It has a strong rotation that would be very difficult to track with a traditional point tracker, so we'll see how the Monet plane tracker solves this problem very easily. Secondly, we have a hand over the bottle. This needs to be masked off, and we'll show how the Monet tracker is able to track garbage masks onto objects very quickly, which can then be refined with a full set of roto tools to give you a good roto mat. It's often easier to start in the middle of a shot, which is what we're going to do here. With this particular example, we need two layers. The first layer we draw is around the label itself. We'll call this the label layer. And the second layer we draw is around the hand. This layer will then track the motion of the hand, and we'll refine this later on and use it as a hold-out mat. Now we'll go into the track tools and change the settings for the label layer so that the track is more accurate. We're going to use more pixels and also tell it to track larger rotations by setting the maximum angle settings to 10 degrees. Let's start by tracking backwards. And as you can see, the object is rotating and it has motion blur, and the Monet planar tracker is tracking it very easily. Now we'll go back to the start point by using the Go to Keyframe button and continue to track forwards. Again, note how the planar motion tracker within Monet is able to track the rotation very easily. So we've now tracked the two layers throughout the sequence, and we'll carry on now by using Adjust Track to adjust the position of the surface for the label layer. So we go to Adjust Track, position the corners of the new label where the corners of the graphic needs to appear. I can use the grid to help me here by using it to align the label accurately to the edge of the bottle. And I can then define a new reference point for each of the corners to be positioned on an area of the label that is still visible, because obviously the hand is covering up the areas that we need to use for the two reference points at the bottom in particular. But also there's not much contrast at the top, so we'll use reference points on the label for both of those as well. And now we can use these reference points to evaluate the track. We can select each reference point in turn and decide if we need to make an adjustment or not. In this occasion we're going to select Auto to make a slight adjustment, and then we'll go and evaluate the rest of the points as well. So here we're making slight adjustments to make sure the label is attracted to the side of the bottle correctly at all times. Each time we make these adjustments, keyframes are applied. And now we have an accurate track for the label on the bottle. We now need to refine the roto shape for the hand. So we go to the Layers menu, lasso the points that we'd like to adjust, and then we're going to go down to the Edge Width control and apply a soft edge to these selected points. We're going to choose a value of 5 to get a decent soft edge for the edge of the spline. Then we can zoom in and start repositioning these points. First of all, we'll remove the overlay, we don't need the surface there, and we'll start to move the position of these points along the edge of the hand. Notice that you can use the tangent handles to change the curvature of the spline at any time. Now let's move back to an earlier frame, and as you can see, we need to adjust the points further, setting a second keyframe so that we animate between the 2 points, so that my spline follows the edge of the hand correctly. I may need more than 2 keyframes, so I'm just going to step through adjusting the edge of the mask on a few keyframes to make sure it's accurately following the edge of the hand. Now let's go to the last frame and move the inner point so that the soft edge is consistent throughout the shot. Then we keep on refining the shape until we're happy that it follows the edge of the hand around accurately. So 1 or 2 more keyframes just to make sure that everything is animating properly. So we now have our rough roto mask for the hand, and if we want to visualize this, we can disable the color channels and show the garbage mask. So this is our roto mask for the hand. So now we'll insert a new label onto the bottle by going into the Image menu and importing an element. In this case, we'll use the Monet logo and attach this to the side of the bottle. So we import our graphic file. Here's our graphic. And we want to use the alpha channel created in the graphic application so we can see the curvature at the top. And I can now reposition the element so that it matches exactly the shape of the original label on the bottle. Now when we render, we can see that the label is rendered on top of the hand. Obviously we want to use the mask for the hand to limit the area being rendered into, and we do this by enabling the use of the layer mask. Over here we need to refine the mask slightly, so we go back to the Layers menu and reposition the points so that the mask is inside the spline. And Having refined the mask and made sure the shape is correct, we can then go back into the image menu, and here we can see the soft edge quite clearly. The hand is now back on top of the label where we want it. So now let's apply a motion blur to make sure that the image is matching the movement of the background and that the label looks like it's always been there. So we'll just render motion blur onto our label, and we can see the hand keying back over the top quite clearly using our garbage mask. To make it look even more accurate, we can also go to the anti-aliasing tool within the blur controls, and then we can re-render, adding anti-aliasing and motion blur to the label on the bottle. Also, be aware that the garbage mask for the hand can be exported separately and used for compositing elsewhere. And here's our result.